What is up, and welcome to the best and hardest Alphabet Platinum Challenge you will find on YouTube. I have government paperwork that says so. For those of you that don't know, we're picking a game that starts with each letter of the alphabet starting from Z, going all the way up, and platinuming / getting the 100% on each of them. So far, we've done Zombie Army 4, East 8, XCOM 2, Wolfenstein 2, Visage, and Undertale. Have some pretty rough games to do still, including Outlast 2, Hollow Knight, Fortnite, Black Ops 3, Back 4 Blood, among some others coming up later in the challenge. Yeah, I don't know how this happened that I have another notorious hard game right after Wolfenstein and XCOM, but here we are. So let's get into a deep dive for today's video with our T game, The Evil Within. As with every video, let's break down into different steps. Step 1, beat the game without upgrading a single thing. Did this on the easiest mode because it made sense in my head to do that. Step 2, New Game Plus, go through getting all the collectibles / remaining miscellaneous trophies. Step 3, go on New Game Plus Plus, do a speedrun. Step 4, because I'm stupid and did Step 1 on the easiest difficulty and not the medium difficulty, have to do a whole extra playthrough on that medium difficulty. And then Step 5, what everyone is here for, Akumu mode. And then Step 6, fly through the DLCs. So our story begins with the main character Sebastian and his two cop followers, Joseph and Kidman, heading off on a call. The building is in shambles, and we quickly find a monitor showing 3 cops getting manhandled by this guy moving at the speed of light. We immediately wake up hung upside down with this monster-looking man cutting people in half. The majority of the game is just trying to figure out how to survive the hellscape we find ourselves in. The lore throughout the game is mostly describing the events that led to our current predicament, and then the end sort of sets up what happens after, but most of the playable game is just surviving area to area trying to figure out what happened. For anyone who has seen Inception and was confused throughout that, buckle up because it's about to happen again. There are 2 more characters you'll hear me mention quite a bit, Leslie and Ruvik. Ruvik is the main antagonist trying to kill us / capture Leslie. Leslie is a kid constantly running away from us, and we are constantly trying to catch up to him. We'll get into their relationship and more story-related stuff later. For now, I'm just going to try and survive the Evil Within Fuckfest chapter by chapter without upgrading anything. This game does feel much more challenging compared to other survival horror games, especially when you're not upgrading anything. The guns obviously do little damage, but I also could carry next to no ammo. It would sometimes take every bullet I had in a weapon to kill a normal enemy. Even on the easiest difficulty, the enemies hit like a pissed off Mike Tyson. I'd get kicked by an enemy and look up and 80% of my health was gone. Rough first playthrough to say the least. A huge part of this game is finding out how to insta-kill enemies. Because of the aforementioned no ammo bullet sponge enemies, being able to put them down quickly was a must. By sneaking up behind enemies and giving them a little tickle, you can dispose of the body without getting attacked. Doing this 5 times in a row without being discovered popped our first trophy of the game and locked us in for another wild ride. This is another game where not a lot of trophies pop early on. The next trophy didn't come until the end of Chapter 3, where we come across Big Chungus and his pet chainsaw. After using all my ammo and all throwable bottles, finally gave him a dirt nap and popped a trophy. Some of the more annoying trophies in the game are the chapter-specific miscellaneous trophies. The first one I got was in Chapter 4, which is for feeding the doctor's brother a cookie. Just kidding, he already ate the cookie, we simply have to punish him for doing it. And by gently placing my weapon's ammo in his mouth, I got one of these trophies. Continuing on through this nightmare, I was racking up a body count. By killing 30 enemies, I got the first kill-specific trophy to pop. Towards the end of Chapter 5, we have our first fight with the fire-allergic monster. Monster who also one-shots you even on the easiest difficulty. But by running away screaming and burning her, she disappears and I got a trophy for finishing off a shrieking beast. Spoiler alert, she was in fact not finished. The next trophy didn't come until the infamous Chapter 6. It was running away constantly in this part, yelling for an adult to come and save me. Joseph, alleged adult, did no such thing. This turned into an escort mission, but I was escorting an ice cube through the desert in an African summer. Guy would just stand still, eating hits, and when he did decide to run, he would just fall off a ledge. One of these times I went to help him up, and upon dragging his limp body up, I got a miscellaneous chapter trophy for picking up worthless Joseph. There's not a lot of useful items that you can pick up in this game. One of them, however, is a god weapon. That is the torch. Pretty much any normal enemy you can tickle with the torch, and they instantly die. Torch will also disappear, so a one-use hand of God kind of item, essentially. And by killing 5 enemies with these torches, I got a trophy to pop. As I'm continuing to chase after Leslie, which became an ongoing joke at this point, I ran into Tweedledee and Tweedledum. By sending these guys to Fuckville, USA, I got a trophy for taking out both guardians before the church. The next trophy comes from an item that I haven't talked about at all up to this point because I didn't realize how great they were. Matches. Yes, things used to light a candle. Why are these so overpowered, you may ask? Well, I am glad you asked. So instead of using all my pistol ammo to kill one enemy, if they're on the ground, I use one single match and they are deleted from the game. And in this part I had a whole bunch chasing after me with a gasoline pile on the ground. By letting them come close and dropping a match on the ground, I got a trophy for killing 3 living enemies with one match. Now comes what I think is the scariest part of the game, going against the keepers. These guys walk around with a wobbly dildo stick, and when you do destroy one and think you're in the clear, it respawns at a different box. There's no downtime against these guys, but getting through this part and dropping the big ceiling spike on it, survived the chapter and got a trophy for escaping the keeper beneath the catacombs. Not long after this came my most hated boss in the game, asshole hiding in the basement of the garage. This thing is ginormous, and couple that with the janky controls, I got hit constantly. It made me really worried about Akumu mode, because when you take any damage, you die. But I threw everything I had at it, and eventually went bye-bye land, and I got a trophy for ending a monstrosity in the underground garage. Spoiler alert, the next trophy is another boss trophy. There are multiple parts of this game. It feels more like you're in a movie or in a cheap arcade game. This is a part that feels like a cheap arcade game. I'm sitting on a boss fighting this giant Uggo. It was particularly hard, and finishing him, her, it off, I got a trophy for outrunning a gigantic threat in the city. Words are hard sometimes, everybody. Despite how long it was taking me to kill enemies, I eventually got another kill-related trophy for killing 200 enemies. I'm nearing the end of the game at this point, and have 2 chapters left, Chapter 14 and Chapter 15. Chapter 14 is basically finding pieces to turn a generator on, and then boss fight. By finding all of the pieces of the generator before the boss fight and turning it on, I got the Chapter 14 miscellaneous trophy. Didn't excuse me from the boss fight, however. Big man still came a-knockin'. This guy was also annoying because of the constant little shits he spawned in. And again, made me nervous for Akumu mode. But I eventually made it through and got a trophy for removing an invisible enemy from the equation. Chapter 15 was pretty quick, as it's only a couple rooms of enemies, a death maze section, and then the most gimmicky final boss of a game ever. But I gave Ruvik the 1-2 piece combo and ended my first playthrough, which got me trophies for defeating the ultimate evil within, the second hardest trophy for finishing the game without upgrading any skills, and completing the game on casual difficulty. Now that we finished the game and got some more context to what was going on, let me try and simplify the story. Spoilers for anyone who clicked on the video not wanting to know about the story. So Ruvik had a tragic childhood, and it got worse when his sister, who he was in love with, died. He eventually started working with scientist Dr. Jimenez and Mobius to create this STEM machine, which was like a shared consciousness. In typical horror game fashion, this group wanted to use this machine to more or less take over the world. Ruvik was brilliant and made this machine work only with him. Mobius decided to get rid of Ruvik and figure out how to control the machine without him. But they removed his brain and hooked it up to the machine until they could figure that out. Ruvik's consciousness continued to exist in this different world and just started destroying anyone who tried to join in. Mobius had no idea how to fix this and started looking for people that could basically link up with Ruvik and become a new host. Cue in Leslie, who had an equally tragic backstory as Ruvik. But the entire game is basically Ruvik trying to take control of Leslie to escape. Leslie running away trying to survive, and us trying to stop all of this and escape. And at the end, we do escape and destroy Ruvik's brain. But not before he takes control of Leslie and runs out of the hospital. That is our 1-minute summary of this confusing game. I decided to get some what was supposed to be quick and easy miscellaneous trophies before beginning my second playthrough. Found out these trophies were not quick nor easy. This took me a while to figure out how to do, but after looking at a guide, I quickly got this trophy. The next 2 trophies ended up being the 2 most annoying in the game. One was for melee killing 25 enemies. Now your normal melee attack is like hitting a shark with a wet napkin, tickling someone who broke into your house, a 3-week-old puppy biting you. It does nothing. Supposedly, you can use the torch and other items you can pick up. Also, if you stomp on enemies, that's supposed to count. Well, I found a spot where there's like 30 little babies that you could stomp on, and they disintegrate. According to a guide, this counts. I stomped on hundreds of these things, and the trophy just never popped. I did it time and time again, and nothing. Frustrated not having this trophy, I went for a different trophy, which was to kill 5 enemies with each type of agony bolt. This should be easier. Well, I was wrong. Again. I probably had 30 plus kills with each of them, and it just wouldn't pop. I went to chapter 2 because at the end, there's an almost infinite number of enemies. Just kept cycling through agony bolts, getting kills. At one point, I used the frost one, and after smashing a frozen enemy, the trophy for getting melee kills popped finally. And after continuing to cycle through the bolts, the other garbage trophy finally decided to pop. Once you beat the game, you are gifted with an RPG. Normally, in survival horror games, having an RPG makes you akin to a god. This game, however, made a complete mockery out of the RPG, and its aim is horrible, does little damage, takes forever to reload, and you can't move with it. It sucks. But just spamming it, I got a trophy for killing 10 enemies with a secret explosive weapon. Now I finally finished step 1 and can move on to our next playthrough, which was to get remaining miscellaneous trophies and all upgrades and collectibles. Right in the beginning of the game, I had an opportunity to get my next trophy. Going through chapter 2 without firing a single shot or taking out any enemies got me the miscellaneous trophy for this chapter. Now I got to do this next playthrough on New Game Plus, so I carried over all my upgrade material from my first playthrough. I instantly got to upgrading and got a trophy for fully upgrading my first weapon. I moved on to chapter 5 because I fumbled the bag in chapter 3 for that miscellaneous trophy. But the chapter 5 trophy requires me to protect Joseph from taking any damage at all. Now this part is awful. Joseph is a brave hero and dives into combat to save the day. Problem is, he doesn't have any useful skills and thinks he could face tank every hit. So after multiple tries going for this, I finally got through this and got the trophy. I went back to the upgrade shock chair and upgraded all the options in the stock section, got a trophy. I then got the last kill related trophy for killing 400 enemies. The next miscellaneous trophy is to get through the end with only deboxing the big box man 2 times, which honestly was pretty easy, just kind of ran from the parts where I could, and I got this trophy pretty fast. The very next chapter was another trophy to go through the whole thing without firing a shot. Again, this was pretty fast and easy, and I got this trophy pretty quick for chapter 8. Continued my upgrade spree and got the trophy for fully upgrading 3 weapons. The next trophy, Chapter 10, was for actually putting down the flammable monster. After setting her on fire a couple times, she screamed like a baby back bitch, fell over, giving me some good upgrade materials, but more importantly, a trophy. Moved on to Chapter 12, which was another obnoxious trophy. There's a 20-second section where you drive a bus. I had to go through this whole thing without hitting a single zombie. This bus controls like a drunk man trying to fly a plane, but after multiple attempts, finally got this trophy to pop. Now came time to pop a bunch of collectible trophies. I got one for upgrading all weapons, fully upgrading all attributes, finding all the keys and opening all lockers, getting every collectible in the game. Finished my second playthrough and decided to get the last miscellaneous trophy before my speedrun. I went back to Chapter 3 and put my big boy pants on, and melee killed the Chainsaw Man and got the last annoying trophy in the game. The next step is a speedrun of under 5 hours. First I thought this was going to be rough, but you can do this on New Game Plus. So with every single thing fully upgraded and a bunch of craftable material, I flew the speedrun in record time. Like beating the time on the guide by over an hour. Very fast. And I got the trophy. Now I had one more playthrough before Akumu. And this happened because I'm stupid and thought I could outsmart the guide. Remember when I started the game on the easiest difficulty? Well, on New Game Plus runs, it didn't let me increase the difficulty. And you have to beat the game on the medium difficulty to unlock Kuma mode. So I had another playthrough. Yippee. I got through that as painlessly as I could, got a trophy for beating the game on survival mode, and more importantly unlocked Kuma mode. Time for the true challenge of this game. Chapter 1 was super easy as there are very few enemies to deal with. It's mostly the tutorial chapter, and outside of one encounter where I had to throw some bottles to get this guy's attention, I was able to get through it with no problem. Just how annoying could this mode be, I started to think. Chapter 2 showed me that. In my first attempt, I was doing amazing. Sneaking up behind enemies for sneak kills, using traps to kill other enemies, I was killing it. The hardest part of the chapter I got through. The last 2 enemies died to the trap and I was home free. Except for one little small hiccup. I found out that very rarely an enemy after being set on fire will continue to attack. And that happened to me. And he killed me. I now had to redo this entire section all over again. And nothing ever went right after this first attempt. Some enemies would see me even though I was crouched behind them. Some decided they didn't want to be a brainless AI anymore and ruined my run. But after some time, I finally got through this chapter with not a whole lot of deaths yet. Chapter 3 is where my entire run changed. I was following one guide, which, to be honest, was super skill-based. And since I have no skill, was challenging at parts. But thankfully, one of my viewers, huge shout out to Franco, told me about this other guide from OptiNoob. This guy was amazing. Super simple strategies, and he also never picked up random drops, so it was always consistent. This is the chapter I started watching him, and it turned what was going to be a horrific part into a walk in the park. There's a chainsaw guy here, and at this point, I have very little weaponry. But with this strategy, I was able to set up a bunch of stuff at his spawn, where I killed him super fast, and looked something like this. I mean, honestly, that wasn't terrible. This despawned all other enemies. I could then just go around the village and loot everything. This mode is a piece of cake. Next came Chapter 4. I was basically babysitting Dr. Jimenez and searching for Leslie. This was all going pretty well. There were only a couple enemies that were quickly dealt with. This chapter, however, made me very concerned. There's one particular part, which was the Pool of Blood room. This is a pretty narrow, tight area where a bunch of enemies spawn in. I thought this was going to be pretty tough. Just kidding. With my handy dandy guide, I knew where the spawns were going to be, and I smoked them all and got through this chapter with very little issue. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is where things started to go downhill. This chapter begins with some invisible enemies. These surprisingly didn't cause much of an issue. Just kind of sprayed the shotgun and ran for my life. My first hurdle came when I rescued Garbage Dweller Joseph. Rescuing him means we had the saving Kidman part coming up. Not only did I have to worry about me and dying to a slight breeze, but I now had to also protect Joseph, who, like we mentioned, thinks he is All Might and can face tank hit every single hit. And let me tell you, he can't. But I got through this part with not too many deaths because of the godsend crossbow and agony bolts. Went through like a fat kid getting through his Halloween candy. Stunning or electrifying pretty much every enemy made this part pretty bearable. Getting through most of the chapter was pretty easy. Started to think I was about to be 1/3 done with the game and had pretty few deaths. All of that changed with the Spider Lady boss. This boss sucks. She is fast, and the timing to get her with matches is horrible. Just look at some of these ridiculous deaths I had. I was losing my mind as I kept dying again and again and again. After continuing to try this, I eventually got the timing down for the matches and was luckily able to survive this nightmare and get through this chapter. Next came the infamous Chapter 6. To be honest, I didn't think the beginning was awful. I had a bunch of deaths, but that was more because I wanted to try and save resources instead of making it easy. So the cabin holdout section, I ended up saving multiple agony bolts by just trying for a couple extra attempts. God damn it.
There's twice as many of them.
Dude, god damn it! Okay. What did I just run into? At one point I even got through the second door and thought I was in the clear. Used up all my stamina thinking once I stepped through that door, I got through. Well, this ended up happening instead. No, 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 no! God damn it! Dude, they don't close the fucking door? Why would you do that? Eventually, I got through this part and came to the part that was supposed to be even harder. There's a boatload of enemies that come here, and I have to protect dipshit Joseph again. Well, by abusing enemy spawns and a cheeky exploit with reloading a checkpoint, I was able to shoot the arrow guys in quick succession, and once I did this, I could trigger a checkpoint to despawn every enemy but the chainsaw guy. After doing this came the real challenge of this chapter: disarming the bombs. Oh my god, was this awful. This thing moves so fast and the green area of the bomb is so small, and I had to do 8 of these in a row. Just look at how many deaths I was getting from these. Eventually, I got lucky on all of them and went and slapped the chainsaw guy around and cleared the hardest part of the hardest chapter. Had another scarier part thanks to Joseph again, and that's him being slow to raise up a gate. But some perfectly placed shock bolts took care of all these enemies with ease. Up a little further came Deedle D and Ballbag. Some perfectly placed bolts and shotgun shots made quick work of these guys, and honestly, they were pretty easy to deal with in a one-on-one. And then came the last part of this awful chapter. One of the most annoying boss fights in the game. The baddest boy, Sir Asshole Doggo. This thing blows. The fight starts, and with no hesitation, he instantly jumps at you and hits you. Like, look how many times I died just from this. And what the guide maker was doing did not work for me. I had to get lucky to survive the first second, to place shock bolts around and pray. But I was finally able to defeat Shipbird and finally finish this horrible chapter with a bunch of added deaths. Chapter 7 luckily let up a little bit. I get to go play in the underground area. This section is basically just going to different areas to get 3 pieces to unlock the progression. It was pretty easy and straightforward. Killed a few enemies, burned some others, and ran for my life. Chapter is one of the easiest and also shortest chapters in the game. I was able to run past a large majority of the enemies, solve the easiest puzzle in a game ever, and finish the chapter with very few deaths. The beginning of chapter 9 is kind of a nightmare. This house has a whole lot of enemies, and you will randomly be chased by Ruvik. This area definitely seems more random than most of the game. Definitely had a couple bullshit deaths that looked like this. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh! God damn it. Oh, that scared me. I didn't enjoy that. But I eventually filled all of the blood vials and was able to move on. The next part is just kind of a walking simulator while getting more of Ruvik's backstory. Went through a maze that had me feeling like a mouse in a science experiment, and finally ended up at the barn, which meant another semi-boss fight. Oh no, just kidding. I just spammed shock bolts on the ground and insta-burned the enemies and got through this super fast. Got to the end of this chapter with minimal issue. Chapter 10, Chapter 10, Chapter 10, Chapter 10. Guess who's back? Laura, aka Big, Ugly, Fast as Fuck Boy Spider Lady. Another pretty annoying part. One of the scariest parts of the game solely because she's a track star, and you always feel like you're going to get hit. Luckily, the guide showed a strategy. You can shoot a flame vent with a harpoon and it will stay open forever, just dealing a boatload of damage to her. I had some pretty rough parts that looked like this. Sick. Love the accuracy with the pistol, everyone. So much fun. But I was eventually able to open a fire vent and kite her into it, getting through this and finishing her off once and for all. I got some more story related parts, namely Dr. Jimenez being a schmuck and getting mollywopped, but that just means one thing. My most hated boss is up next. This gigantic thing is a pain in my ass. It moves so fast, and it's huge, so that each step takes up so much ground. But again, our guide maker came in clutch here as well. I just threw a bunch of different shots at him to start the fight, and once he hit stage 2, I just stayed by his side, running in circles and hoping he didn't hit me, continuing to shoot him with everything I had, and my heart racing. He eventually fell, and I sprinted the fuck up out of there and completed Chapter 10, officially getting through 2/3 of the game. I now came face to face with the last real hurdle of Akumu, Chapter 11. This chapter put me in a sack and beat me with a baseball bat. This chapter starts off in an alleyway, and you end up in an open yard. This area is so annoying because some jack-offs come in with machine guns. And in a mode where you die if you get spit on, that is an awful combination. Like, look at the bullshit I went through. I eventually got through this and I went for a little swim, which was a nice break. But then I came to the worst part, by far in the game. The construction site. Oh my god, does this place suck. I've been raving about how great this guide is from Optinoob the entire game. But the first part of this area wasn't so great, and I had to come up with my own strategy to get through this. But I just kept dying again, and again, and again, and again. I just kept dying, and a lot of them looked a lot like this. So stupid. Dude. It's instant, dude. What the fuck? Dude, I fucking shot. Fuck you, pal. Fuck you. Dude, what the fuck? Can you guys jump down at the same goddamn time? But after what felt like, and most likely was, hours, I finally got through it by just shooting and praying. And what was my reward? The even worse gondola section. Didn't take me very long to get through this, but I used up just about all of my ammo I had. Great. I had to go and start opening up all the lockers at this point to replenish my ammo. Hopefully won't need any of that stuff later. The rest of the chapter was pretty doable. Running, shooting shock bolts, crying, rescued Kidman, then got locked in a room by Kidman, and finally got to the end of the steaming pile of cow shit, Chapter 11. Chapter 12 became super easy with the guide, knowing exactly which weapon and how many shots to take out the disgusting oversized beetle made this a breeze. Then exploded some enemies on a bridge, and ran for the bus, leading me to the end of a very quick chapter. Chapter 13 had potential to be a horrible experience. There's a lot of enemies in a very tight area. I had the power of God and anime on my side, however, and just ran through without being hit and got them to despawn. Then came my personal hell, the Roomba Death Room. Oh Lord, these things suck. And even knowing you can destroy them is still stressful. You never know what they're going to do. But by closing my eyes and praying, I got through it and moved on, somehow, to another keeper boss fight. But since I had so much ammo from pillaging the lockers, I just slung it right on their foreheads and very quickly and easily killed them, and escaped and ran my way to the end of the chapter. Thus began the final hard chapter of the game, Chapter 14. After dying a couple of times in the subway cars, I eventually made it through to the land of the uglies. Between the matches and some properly placed agony bolts, I got through this area with little trouble as well. This all culminated in what was going to be a rough boss fight. Just kidding. I sent Dipshit on a one-way bus ride to Pound Town. Some freeze bolts and magnum shots ended this fight super fast, and I was able to gingerly walk towards the light of Chapter 15. Chapter 15 was an absolute joke. Half of it is just a walking simulator. Then I went through a couple waves of enemies, and since I had such an abundance of resources, I just spammed agony bolts and made it to the next room. Got through this room in about 7.4 seconds with my sniper. I then had to fight two keepers at the same time. This was going to be tough. Also kidding. I just spammed magnum shots at them and it ended almost instantly. Went through a pretty easy maze, ran away from Giant Ruvik, and then had to do the arcade style fight, which ended with an RPG to his face. Sebastian then woke up, and my Akumu mode run finally came to a close. The trophy popped, and soon after that sweet, sweet platinum trophy followed. Now, I usually go through all the DLC trophies in addition to the platinum, but to be honest, 99% of the DLC was incredibly boring. Like just follow a guide while being in the dark. There wasn't much to talk about with these. That is until we get to the final DLC. There's one trophy that instantly jumps out, and it's to clear the executioner without taking any damage. Well, that actually isn't the hard trophy somehow. The trophy that is easily the hardest is completing all the torments. Torments are just basically certain challenges to complete, and one in particular is horrific, and that's what I'm gonna focus on. This challenge is to complete the hidden final executioner chamber. The objective is very simple. All you have to do is clear it. There are a couple waves, and you have to kill a certain enemy or enemies to advance the wave. And normal enemies will infinitely spawn as long as the objective enemy is still alive. And the final wave is a boss fight against Sebastian and Joseph. And let me tell you, this is horrible. Sebastian is firing the hand of God down on you, and Joseph is just as annoying as he is in the normal game. They do so much damage, and it's very hard to hit them. The best option I have is an RPG, but like we went over before, this thing sucks. It takes so long to aim and fire, and then to move. I died to these two over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, just look at all the nonsense I had to deal with. Dude, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Dude, this thing crapped out. But finally, I killed Sebastian and had a little ammo and little health against Joseph until this happened. Holy shit. Guys, I fucking did it! Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! Holy fuck, I did it! Holy shit! Oh my god, I have no fucking health, but I fucking did it! Let's fucking go! Holy shit, complete all torments. Fuck you, game. You can suck my dick. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, that was fucking horrible. I finally took them both out by the grace of God and got this trophy. The rest of the DLC trophies were pretty forgettable, so I'm just going to show you guys the 100% of the trophies to prove I got them, and we're just going to move on. Now on to our sweet rankings. For difficulty, I'm going to give this game a 7. To be honest, I didn't really think it was all that hard, especially with that guide I used. It trivialized so many parts I thought were going to be hard. There's a couple spots that are a little challenging, but really not that bad. For grind, I'm giving this game a 6. If you follow the PSN guide instead of being like me, there aren't a ton of playthroughs, and being able to do the speed run on New Game Plus makes it go by so fast. And that gives us a total score of 6.5. Onto the BS meter. For those of you who don't know, this is either going to be a 0 or a 1. And if there's something outside of normal gameplay required, it gets a 1. It just gets added to the score. I'm going to give this game a BS score of 0. Yes, getting one shot is annoying, but there's so many checkpoints and you can save whenever you want, it really isn't awful. That gives us a final true ranking of 6.5. For recommendation, I'm going to give this game a 7. It is a notoriously hard game and a great one to add to your trophy list. It's not particularly hard or long, so it's a pretty easy one to get down. Thank you everyone who tuned in to see me lose my mind. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you can follow along with the rest of the challenge and continue to quickly see me lose my sanity. We stream every game for this challenge over at Twitch, and we'll leave a link in the description below. Lastly, we have a Discord, which will also have a link in the description. Have roles for completing certain games, as well as a channel to request help with trophies, where I will either hop in the game to help you, drop items or weapons so you don't need my help, or at the very least, give tips and tricks on how I went about getting the trophy. I will see you guys in the next video, where I do one of the hardest 100% of this challenge, Sifu. Please, just let me turn this off.